Welcome to B2B with Randy and Craig, where we speak to local entrepreneurs and learn about their journey. Welcome to B2B with Randy and Craig, where we talk about the rise, the falls,
and the kick in the butt.
It's a family show. It's Sunday morning.
Sunday morning.
All right. I'm Randy.
I'm Craig from That's a Wrap Productions.
And we have a special guest with us this morning. Matter of fact, a very dear friend of mine, Jay Rhodes from Countertops. Welcome, Jay.
Thanks. It's good to be here, guys. Thanks for having me here. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Got to start with a question. Why countertops?
Why not countertops?
Everyone says why not.
We got to change this question.
We got to work around this somehow.
I guess it's in my blood. It's a family business, so it just felt naturally once I got out of the Marine Corps to,
So first of all, thank you for your service.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So you're saying your family started Countertops?
Well, it was actually Countertop. It was started by a gentleman by the name of Peter Santulli and his brother out of Brooklyn.
Okay.
They split up, moved to Mineola. My dad came on when he was 18. Peter's family didn't really want anything to do with it, so my dad started buying into the company and, and eventually owned it fully. I got out of the Marine Corps. Things weren't that great. It was 93,
right?
95,
right,
when I got out. So things were kind of crazy. So it wasn't greatest. I kicked around.
When you went to the Marines to for experience?
I went into the Marines because I wasn't a college student.
I got it.
What I mean? And I was always felt like I was some kind of military.
Got it.
And when push came to shove, it was my criminal justice instructor in high school that kind of pushed me towards the Marine Corps.
Going to the Marines.
Yeah,
and I'm sure you've learned an incredible amount of Marines that you use today as an entrepreneur.
I'm reaching out. I'm trying to find more. I really want to connect with as many veteran-owned businesses and, help us all grow that way.
So veteran-owned businesses throughout the country, just New York? What are you looking for?
Well, yeah, we're not set up to be globally right now. So we're sticking to New York, Montauk to Manhattan.
Well, let's talk about what you do first. We didn't even get into that.
Yeah.
So you do countertops. That's very, very vague and very, very wide. Give us a better understanding.
Okay, so you could go at it a couple of different ways. If you have a house that you just want to replace the countertops on, we can come in, just remove what you have, and give you a new countertop.
So that could be marble, granite, mica.
Yeah, so we do pretty much. We're like your one-stop shopping for any of your countertop needs. We started off doing laminate back in, we've been around since 1950. Started with laminate. The solid surface products like Corian and Hymax started coming into the industry. We grew that way. And eventually, as we moved, we got bigger and took on doing stone. So, now we do everything. So
stone is like a different level?
There's a lot of companies out there that just do stone.
We've been.
Once or twice.
Well, like I said, a lot of businesses out there are just either doing laminate and solid surface or solid surface and stone or just stone. To be able to have the ability to do everything, so
it's awesome.
So whatever you need, you just come in to see us, and we can.
And you do commercial and residential?
Do commercial and residential. We'll do indoor, outdoor. We'll put material on walls for people. Do facades or fireplaces.
You said you replace someone's countertop altogether. If they want to just keep the stuff. What if they want like a whole new cabinets and stuff? Do you do that kind of stuff? Or
we can put them in touch with people that do the cabinet work themselves.
It's Countertops. It's not King Cabinets.
Well, I don't know.
We used to do a lot of cabinet stuff. We would do it all, but specializing in just doing countertops is where we got our little niche.
Okay. And you have a special little niche. I think that you work with some box stores, right?
Well, yeah, we are actually in Home Depot and Lowe's right now.
That's awesome.
What does that mean?
So if you go into Lowe's or Home Depot and need a laminate or solid surface countertop or stone in some cases, the way they work, we're not in every store doing every product. We do,
select stores.
Yeah. So, but we pretty much go in there if you're going to ask for a countertop.
It's going to be you.
More than likely, knock on, stone. That it'll be us. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
So I want to go back. I want to go back to the early part of the conversation. So you're out of the Marines. Your dad worked hard and has his company.
Yeah.
you don't know what you want to do. You came in and you were working for him.
Yeah. I started in the back, cutting, learn. So basically I was a working foreman, as the title would go, and learned how to do everything from cutting and fabricating and installing. So that's
important. So you be all around.
You got to know. You got to know
that's
everything.
Huge.
You got to know everything and how to do everything.
So that was in the 90s.
Yeah.
So now we're how many years? We're
30 years forward.
40, almost
30.
30. Oh God!
Wow.
Wow. 30 years later, and now you're running the company. I know that I mean.
Yeah, Dad's slowly stepping down. My brother Patrick's on board. We like to look at it as a restaurant. He's front of the house, I'm back of the house kind of thing.
Love it.
I try to get on the road too. It's that networking has been a big help in helping to get our name back out there.
So does he's all back end, you're all front end? Is that?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
So like if you're calling, you may get me, but you'll get either one of the office managers or Patrick.
How is it working with family and within your business? Is it you find it difficult or?
It's let me stay. Listen, I stuttered, but it's good. It is great. It's something that I never thought I'd have the opportunity to do.
Right.
So with that being said, but there are pits and valleys. You know
course,
what I mean?
everything.
With everything, and whether it was family or just a business partner or whomever, you're going to run into certain aspects that you don't see eye to eye on everything.
One thing that I learned and I learned it the opposite way. I was not a partner. I was not family, but blood is thicker than water.
Yeah.
Yeah,
when it's all like I said, Dad always says, no matter what happens here, I'll always love you. You know what I mean? So,
right.
And there's been times where I thought maybe this isn't the way I should be doing it. Maybe I should go do something else. But I like working with my hands. I like the challenge of a product and a project, and everything kind of changes. It's not, we're making countertops, but we're making them different every time.
But
you know what I mean? Different shapes, different sizes.
But in
different
talking
products.
to you, Jay, not talking about the product, and talking to you about growing your business, you speak about things like being veteran owned.
Yeah.
How that'll impact your business. So as an entrepreneur, here's a gentleman who recognizes his past can help him in his future. So his past helped him because you were lost. You said it.
Yeah.
You went there. I know from knowing you 30 years that a lot of your relationships come from the Marines, and you're very and that's awesome. But it gives you also a different perspective that maybe you didn't have, where now you're in a leadership role.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's so important. So let me ask you questions before we get, how does somebody who wants a countertop, I assume commercial, residential, how do they get a hold of you?
Our website is
What
out
is the
there.
website?
Kingtopsales.com.
Say it, spell it, because
KINGTOPS.com. Yeah, sales.com.
All right, that's good. He's holding. By the way, those of us, we're on the radio.
Yeah.
No, we also. What's the phone number?
631-231-1025.
And you service all Long Island.
Montauk to Manhattan.
Montauk to Manhattan.
No, so let's say someone has granite countertop,
Correct.
and they get chipped from time to time. No,
Right.
So how does someone repair?
So like I said, stone, when you're dealing with stone products, they're very expensive. Industry has come up with ways to repair minor chips, scratches, and cracks.
Really?
So
that's great.
and it's most people would not like to touch something that they didn't fabricate or install, because kind of thing is, what Dad says is, you touch it, you own it.
Yeah, you don't want to be married to someone else's problem.
Exactly.
Right.
So usually tell people to go back to their fabricator or whatever. Or if they're not even around anymore, we can assess it and see if it's something simple.
That's
that we
awesome.
can fix.
That's awesome.
Nice.
And is most of your work coming out of new builds, or is it coming out of retrofitting and going?
It's actually a really good mix. We would love new construction. You know what I mean? It makes everybody's life a little bit easier when you don't have to work around pre-existing situations. But like I said, doing a retrofit with somebody's just taking out old cabinets and putting in new, or just like I said, taking out old countertops and just changing the look a little bit.
What I love that you bring to the market. I mean, let's look at this. A veteran owned, family owned and operated, owners on premises, Manhattan to Montauk, and we're looking to partner with builders, new construction, maybe condos and things like that, if you're listening, property managers, and we're looking to partner with individual homeowners that are looking to improve their countertops, whether, I guess, a bathroom, whether it be a backyard barbecue, it doesn't matter.
Correct.
So as an entrepreneur, those attributes are very important that we just discussed. I'm sure of it, and I'm sure that that's part of your KPIs that you guys talk about. Hey, we're family owned and operated.
Yeah.
We have reputation.
That's always, like you said, being family owned and operated it's a proud thing for me. You know what I mean? Being, coming from where we came from and seeing how the business has grown and how my dad's done things, is life changing. You know what I mean? I've never thought, like I said, it's provided this places, and he has provided things that I never thought I would ever be able to.
And you're going to take that.
And I want to take what he's done and run with it and try to grow. So if I can push my veteran status to help us connect with other veterans that would help us get different jobs, then by all means.
Yeah, that is so important. And I love, we had on earlier in the week, we had someone on a family business, and it was a husband and wife.
Okay.
And the wife was talking to us about the balancing act. There's a balancing act. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm running a business and stuff. And she talked about the women's groups. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about these women groups are so empowering to them. Yeah. And in my mind, as you're speaking to me, I hear that about the veterans. Like, it's so empowering. You're a vet, or we got to help each other. We got to be here for each other.
Absolutely. Listen, when you're in the military, doesn't matter what branch, it's a brotherhood. Mm-hmm. And we give each other, nonsense and riz each other all the time. Within the branches, it's fine. Now, somebody come outside the inn, you got a problem with that more times than not. So,
right.
But I think that extends when you get out. You know what I mean?
Right.
And not just business-wise, but all these veterans that are struggling, like, that's something I want to start.
That means something.
The Beacon House, if I can plug them.
Plug.
The Beacon House is a great veteran support group. You know what I mean? They do it.
So how can our people listening and viewing, how could they help the Beacon House?
And if you're just tuning in to WBAB 102.3, you are listening to Jay Rhodes from King Tops.
Wow.
Wherever you get your podcasts at iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple. Yeah.
He loves this. He loves it. He does it. Sometimes we're just driving in the car. He just says this in the middle of the time. I'm like, Craig, we're not on. We're just brainstorming over here.
We're here sitting with.
No. You're sitting with me, you schmuck.
How many times do you guys interview each other like throughout the day?
A lot. It's starting to get a little scary, but that's a whole different.
That's a different question.
That's a whole different conversation.
That's a whole different conversation.
So. I remember when you were really getting involved in the business. I told you, Jay and I know each other.
Right.
And as Jay got more involved in the business, he was not back at the house, but he was making decisions. He weren't just cutting.
Yeah.
One of the things that we talked about is, hey, Randy, what's a good, help me. How can I get my brand out there and grow my business? And I introduced Jay to B&I, which I'm very passionate about.
Correct.
And Jay, I'd like to hear, as an entrepreneur who's a non-traditional style, going through Marines and all that fun stuff, what has B&I and networking in general done for you and your business? When I say you and your business, because that's important.
Well, let me start with me. It's gotten me out of my comfort zone. You know what I mean? Standing up, even what I'm doing right now is completely out of my comfort zone.
You're doing great.
Yeah.
I'm extremely uncomfortable, I'll be honest with you.
That's because you're next to me.
Wait for the story that comes out of it later. But get me out of my comfort zone. Get me in front of people, like standing up and talking about my business for 40 seconds in front of 89 people, 90 people every Wednesday is it is at first.
But tell the story. You told me a story. You had to use this in front of people. You had to speak. You told me it was like it rolled off your tongue.
The Beacon House had a function where it was a networking function. It was at the Bethpage. I forget what the Heritage House. I think it is
at the golf course.
So it was great function. You know what I mean? But when you walk up to somebody, like that 90 seconds or an elevator pitch. Exit even had those realtors. They had a function too where I'm standing up in front of 30 people I never met before, but with the experience with B&I, he was like, "All right, give me a minute on your business, go." And I was like, I'll go first. Yeah, I'll go first. You know what I mean? I got no problem going first.
You're very loosey-goosey with it, and you've learned how to get the important facts, decision-making criteria into that 40 seconds.
You hone it down. Yeah, you hone it down. Like what can I do? How can I do it? And how can it help you?
I feel like each networking group or each job or an experience you have in life is meant to sharpen that pencil so that when you get into those opportunities where you have to go.
Yeah.
You can go.
You can go.
You can go.
You can go.
Without hesitation. And without stuttering. Like, it just...
You know how to do it.
You really
it's
just...
second nature to you.
Second nature. It's a good way of putting it, yeah.
So what has it done? What has networking done for a guy? Again, I got it. We got to set the stage. This is not somebody who came out of a college and you can go back and call your guys from, Penn. You can't, you don't have that Rolodex,
Right.
It's different. So tell me about the network that has created the networking for you.
Listen, the amount of people that learning how to network properly, like Randy, I came to you and said, how can I help grow my business? You introduced me to BNI, which has opened the doors immensely. Financially, it's helped, and it's going to continue to help us grow.
Jay's not a breakfast member. People need to understand what it is. Either you're in or you could be
I've
in,
drank the Kool-Aid.
or you could be in.
I kind of drank the Kool-Aid, and I don't I don't mean to put it and make it seem like it's a derogatory term, but it's like I really I'm in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm invested, and learning from the business owners that are there, that have been there longer, and the things that they've come across and the things that they've done that positive and negative, that failed, that worked and didn't work.
There's no such thing as a negative experience if you gain positivity and knowledge from that experience.
Everything, I try to make every...
You're like a different person today. Who is this guy? I had my weed. I don't understand what the hell's going on.
I'll take credit for that. But
please, I've never heard him like this. He's like...
But really, every interaction is a learning moment. You know what I mean? And eventually you meet enough people where you're going to meet the right person.
100%.
So, and like I said, it'll work out when it's supposed to work out.
Right.
So.
And we love having you. Honestly, you're an important member to the group. You've contributed a lot. And again, you give. And when you give, you get.
Yeah. Like I said, the handful, like I said, it's only been about a year and a half. And the handful of experiences that I've seen where there were a couple of charity
events,
functions and events that were going on that the group stepped up, that certain members were being honored, was amazing to be a part of. And like I said, like the positive affirmation that I try to put out there is that if I can help the people that are making a change, I'll make a change.
Love it.
So, and that's something that's just got to continue forward.
And it's so important what Jay's talking about, because as we're growing our businesses, as you're thinking about getting into entrepreneurial, whatever that dream is that you're going to chase, the more people you can surround yourself with that can share experience. Advice is scary. Advice, if you give someone advice, you own that advice.
Well, there's a thing about advice that I tell my kids and my younger siblings, and I said, and I've been saying this for years, I said, I may not give you good advice, but I'll never intentionally give you bad advice. So...
Good. See, not you on the other hand. So we were talking to somebody earlier, Jay, and we were talking about, when someone calls your business to have you come and give them an estimate or to ask you questions, that truly is a privilege, right? You need to earn that. And I went to an event and I had mentioned that I heard something that I just stayed with me. And you would say, oh man, I gotta go to this appointment, and I gotta run to this other guy, and right? So, but instead, the mindset should be, I get to go. Yeah. I get to go on these two appointments. That's how fortunate I am that I get to go. And I've always told my salespeople, when you don't pick up your calls, you're not going to be happy when that phone stops ringing.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Very important.
So, as an entrepreneur, not only do we have to run our business, we have to run our people and run our business to make sure they're doing what needs to be done. I mean,
I enjoy going out and meeting with somebody and listening to what they envision their kitchen or bathroom or outside to be or whatever, and being like, all right, let's try and make this come true. How can we do that? So
the sense of accomplishment must be great. When
just Tuesday, we installed a slab on a wall in a dining room, and it was probably one of the hardest.
You put marble.
We put a 3/4 inch, 6 foot by 9 foot piece of slab of marble on a wall.
What do you stick it up there with? Oh my
It was it was anchored in with some silicone and some epoxies, but it was all backlit with LED lights.
Oh, must be beautiful.
I can't wait to see when the lights are on. So
I like to see when the lights are on. That sounds gorgeous. Where's that, out
I'm
east?
trying to keep the lights on.
Yeah, well, I hear you. That's a whole different
That's a
conversation.
whole other conversation.
Where was that, out east or?
I was in Garden City actually.
Wow, nice,
So,
nice.
yeah,
What's the
and-
most, I'd say, most common misconception about your profession?
They
that
do
we
cabinets.
can? Misconception is we need information to price things, or we can't turn things around overnight
Quickly,
and
all that fun stuff.
We need a few days. We're cutting stone. We're taking something that was forged under pressure over 100 years and
making
we're
it into,
making it so you can have your Cheerios.
right.
You know.
I mean, let's think about this. Let's think about
so-
this. Jay, I ask everybody: is there any books that you've read recently or in your lifetime as an entrepreneur that made such an impact in your life that other entrepreneurs would benefit from that book?
I'll tell you, the most recent one that I read was just given to me was called The Secret. So
I love The Secret.
And it's about power of attraction, positive affirmation, and that's something that a good friend of mine gave to me, Janine Gagliano.
She's fantastic.
Love her. But she, like I said, she
Yeah, no,
gave that to me and said, I think this will help you, and it really has.
it's a fantastic book. I'm going to give you one word of experience, one piece of experience for that. What you put out is what comes back to you. Okay, that's.
Yeah.
But remember, you also got to be a big fan of yourself.
Yeah.
So before you walk in that room and you want to track that energy, I say to myself, Randy, get an effing smile on your face, lift your shoulders up, and show them who the F you are.
Yeah.
And own that room. It's got to be here for it to get out there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So you
Perception
got to
is-
have that self-confidence.
Perception
and
is
that's key.
reality. 100%.
Leaders walk into a room different than followers. When you're an entrepreneur, you walk into a room different.
You know what? And I'm going to go back to the Marine Corps on that. Like, being in the Marines, like, I could walk into any room and know that I can just...
That you're a Marine.
Yeah,
You're a U.S.
yeah.
Marine.
I've done things and seen things that a lot of people in that room can't experience, will never experience.
And-
so I take
and-
that confidence
And wouldn't be able to handle.
yeah, well,
You can't handle
I
the
can't.
truth.
No, I can't.
Get in. So tell I can't. He says this is what I'm dealing with.
Hey, I'm honest.
I appreciate that. Tell us how to get a hold of you again. What's the website?
KingTopSales.com.
At KingTopSales.com.
KingTopSales.com. KingTops.
And 631.
631-231-1025.
So any cabinets, cabinets, you got me. Any countertops, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Type, shape, we can do it all.
Size,
Quick
yeah.
turnaround.
Absolutely.
Montauk. Again, if you're listening, if you're a contractor, you're a property manager, you're a builder, and you're looking for the best countertop manufacturer, Jay's right here on Long Island. And more importantly, he's a vet. He's a business owner. He's a family man. He's got two beautiful boys, boys, older boys. I'm a girl dad, so he never comes over my house. That's a whole different thing.
That's a different story,
Jay can only come over by himself.
That's right.
Jay, thank you so much for
Thank you.
spending
Thank
the
you,
morning
guys.
with
Craig,
us.
yeah, appreciate
And
it. Thank you.
Craig,
So from B2B with Randy and Craig, that's a wrap.
thank you for tuning in to B2B with Randy and Craig. Looking forward to hanging with you next week.